the University of Charlottesville in Virginia. Here in the Personality Studies Division, modern science is coming head-to-head with the mystical beliefs of reincarnation. The unit tries to establish hard evidence of the truths behind the stories such as Devi's. They use the information to assess the potential applications in understanding the human personality. Its founder is psychologist Professor Ian Stevenson. For over 40 years he has travelled the world tracking down those children who claim to be able to recall a past life. Over this long period, he believes that a significant pattern has emerged in many countries.
Individually, the cases of these little children seemed weak, but when you looked at them as a whole, they showed me certain uniformities. Very young age of the children, 2 to 5, and then the tendency for the children to forget when they were 7 or 8.
What began as a personal interest developed into a fully funded research project, which is still struggling to find the truth. There are over 2,000 cases of alleged rebirth from around the world in Stevenson's filing system, but incontrovertible proof is hard to pin down.
Well, my conclusion so far is that for the strongest cases, reincarnation is the best, but not the only explanation. We don't have any perfect case. They all have some flaw. And so I've never claimed we have anything like a proof of reincarnation. But I do believe that reincarnation should be taken seriously as a possible explanation.
Stevenson cross-checks all available details of the children's stories, but he also looks for physical signs, traces of the violent deaths from which many of the children claim to have died.
A small number of the birthmarks are very similar in appearance to birthmarks that nearly everybody has, what we call melanocytic nevi. But most of the birthmarks that I and my colleagues have described are much more substantial.
Stevenson has collected over 600 of these cases. A little girl from Turkey. She claims to remember that her husband killed her in her former life by cutting her head off. Across her throat, she has a faint red birthmark. There's the little boy from Sri Lanka. He says he was killed by a shot in the head, and this is the wound. And a boy from India who died in a car crash that crushed his leg.
In many cases we've been able to verify the existence of the wounds with post-mortem reports, which are very precious, and we need more of that.
In order to gather more evidence and follow up leads, Stevenson has installed a global network of researchers on standby around the world. In 2003, in southern Turkey, a curious case came to light. German psychologist Dr. Jürgen Keil went to investigate.
Under circumstances that I would call good, the child was able to give me information that, in my opinion, could not possibly have come from her current life. I would therefore call it a case that is above average.
In 1998, a young Turkish girl, Atra Kapi, died of brain injuries in a car crash in her home of Antakya. "28 days later, in another Turkish village not far away, Demet Yıldırı was born.
This child had a birthmark that is now faded, and we certainly can't say that it was definitely connected to the accident, but it is the same place where Atra was fatally injured.
At the family home, Kyle meets Demet and her grandmother Kezben Yıldırı. She is absolutely convinced by her grandchild's story.
Demet said from the beginning that she had two mothers, and she even knew the name of her mother from her past life. Lemia. "Why do you have two mothers?" I asked her. But she insisted on it, and the first time she even said her name, Lemia. I knew a Lemia. She was a tailor, and I had my clothes made by her. I'd not mentioned any of this to Demet, and all of a sudden she asked, "Grandma, what is sewing?" I was astounded, by Allah, and asked myself how on earth she would have known about that.
So is the child playing the part, or are her memories real? Through a translator, Kyle questions her about relatives from her previous life.
Can she remember any other name?
Başka isim hatırlıyor musun? Okan, Hakan, Lamia. Başka hiç isim hatırlıyor musun? Ha?
Sadece Ayfer.
Only Ayfer.
Who was Ayfer?
Kimdi Ayfer? Kimdi Ayfer?
Ayfer benim kardeşim.
Ayfer was my sister.
Demet's mother also believes.
Orada şöyle bir şey oldu.
We were in a group of about 20 people traveling in a bus to the seaside. My husband was driving. My brother Mehmet was with us as well. Demet was sitting in between us. 10 kilometers before Çevlik, she suddenly got very upset. She was shaking and crying. My brother put his arm around her and asked what on earth was going on. Her voice was trembling and she was terrified. She said, "This is where we had the accident."
Her mother supports the little girl, and Demet is sticking to her story.
Ben Çevik'te.
Sen de nereden biliyorsun Çevlik'te öldüğünü? Ha? Kim dedi sana Çevlik'te öldü? She said she died in Çevlik. So I asked her, who told you that you died in Çevlik? She said, I know myself.
Lawyer Champi Ransom to examine his methods and findings.
I worked there for about 3 years, 70 to about 73, a little less than 3 years. And it was interesting because we were studying whether these amazing phenomena were actually real, and I think trying to study it in a serious way, not just accepting it or rejecting it, but trying to find out whether there was any evidence for these things.
Ransom examined the method and conditions under which children were interviewed. He analyzed how objective the questioning had been to see if they could have been given subtle cues and hints. But for Stevenson, the idea that our personalities could stretch back beyond one lifetime raises curious questions about human behavior. Conventional psychology believes our personalities are shaped by genetic and environmental influences, by nature and nurture. Stevenson believes there are children whose behavior can't be explained by either, and whose memories must be inherited in some way.
I think there must be some vehicle in which conveys the memories of events and the habits of behavior and the birthmarks and birth defects when these occur. They can't, I think, just occur from one to the other instantly. There must be some intermediate carrier.